Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham Dhammam Sangham Namasami. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see the Venerable. I see one Venerable from Aranya Bodhi. I don't know if you have any. Yes, two Venerables. Very good. From Aranya Bodhi, and some familiar faces from earlier this morning, and some others, I think. So today we're going to be looking at a sutta. It's a very short sutta from the connected discourses of the Buddha. And I'm going to look at both. I think Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation and from Sutta Central, Bhante Sujatos. So the sutta is called, in Bhante Sujato's translation, is a mendicant. And I think I heard Ajahn Brahmali say that that's attempting to be inclusive of all genders. And in this translation by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, he translates it as a certain bhikkhu. And if we look at the Pali, you have the Pali from Sutta Central. It's Anyatara Bhikkhu Sutta. So that's a certain mendicant or certain bhikkhu, but sometimes anyway, so sometimes it's just titled just slightly differently. But this is in the Vedana Samyutta, the collection, the connected discourses on Vedana. And Vedana is usually translated, or often translated, as feeling. And this is what Bhante Bodhi has chosen. I looked in the dictionary that's included in Sutta Central, and Vedana is translated as pain or sensation. So it's a felt sense, and the Lord Buddha describes it as either pleasant, unpleasant, or neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling or sensation that arises in contact at the six sense bases. So there's actually, you can multiply 6 by 3 and then you get 18, and there's different multiplicities of feeling in different suttas. So I think here we're only looking at 3. What I will do is I will read Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation all the way through, so we get the whole piece of what's being discussed. And then we can look at Bhante Sujato's translation, and also remembering we can kind of go back and forth, but we can look at Bhante Sujato's translation and looking at the Pali as well. And then we can dive into what the Buddha is trying to point to here. So I'll start with the reading from Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi's. So, it's, if you need to find the sutta, it's if you look at Samyutta Nikaya SN 36, that's a Vedana Samyutta, and the sutta itself is number 23. So it's SN 36.23. You need to be looking it up. And then if you're looking at the hard copy here, this one, it's 1281, page 1281. But you can find it the same way too if you go to the Vedana Samyutta, and it's number 23 in the Vedana Samyutta. So we'll start. Then a certain bhikkhu approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side and said to him, "Venerable Sir, what now is feeling? What is the origin of feeling? What is the way leading to the origin of feeling? What is the cessation of feeling? What is the way leading to the cessation of feeling?" Oh, very good. We've got Bhante Bodhi's translation up here. Very good. So we just finished the first, almost. Okay, we were looking at what is the cessation of feeling, the way leading to the cessation of feeling, what is the gratification in feeling, what is the danger, what is the escape? My goodness, he's asking quite a big question. It's like quite a complicated question, isn't it? There are, bhikkhus, these three feelings: pleasant feeling, painful feeling, neither painful nor pleasant feeling. This is called feeling. With the arising of contact, there is the arising of feeling. Craving is the way leading to the origination of feeling. With the cessation of contact, there is the cessation of feeling. This noble eightfold path is the way leading to the cessation of feeling. That is right view, and then it's got the ellipsis here, so we have to fill them in, right? Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Okay. So it's easier for me in Pali somehow. There's different translations of these path factors. That's why I have to think about it a little bit. So the Noble Eightfold Path is the way leading to the cessation of feeling. The pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on feeling. This is the gratification in feeling. That feeling is impermanent, suffering, and subject to change. That is the danger in feeling. The removal and abandonment of desire and lust for feeling. This is the escape from feeling. So I think it's so lovely. This monk comes and he asks quite a complicated question. And Lord Buddha doesn't hesitate. He's able to explain it very concisely. But now we're going to look at this in detail because it's actually quite a rich sutta. And it's really, what do you call, nutriment for contemplation. This is, you could take one of these answers and really try to contemplate it on the cushion for quite some time, I think. So would you please, Venerable Kachina, switch the view to the Bhante Sujato's translation with the Pali translations, with the Pali side by side would be good. Yeah, I think. So now we can take this more slowly, and then we'll open it up to discussion as we go along. Would somebody like to read the first let's see. You can just read the question. Read start and the question. So this sideways. Anybody willing to do some reading?
Sir, what is feeling? What's the origin of feeling? What's the practice that leads to the origin of feeling? What's the cessation of feeling? What's the practice that leads to the cessation of feeling? And what is feeling's gratification, drawback, and escape?
Oh, that's the complicated question. So they could take the answers one by one and really think about what's being said here. I don't know, no one else here has Sutta Central. Would somebody like to read the question, the second question? I mean, the first question? I can read it. Mendicants, there are these three feelings. Oh, did somebody unmute themselves? Yes, you want to read that?
Oh, mendicants, there are these three feelings: pleasant, painful, and neutral. These are called feeling.
Okay. So it seems like Bhante Bodhi and Bhante Sujato both are calling Vedana feeling. But as we see, it's not anything to do with emotion. And as I was saying, it's described as contact, it arises, and as we go through the sutta, it's, pain and sensation. This is so if you think of it as sensation that arises in contact, that might be helpful. Or feeling might work well if you're used to that translation and you really understand it's not talking about emotion or any sankharas, any more complicated mental formations that arise other than kind of a somatic response to contact. Does anyone want to say anything about this one? This is pretty straightforward. Anyone want to make a comment or have a question about this so far? Okay, we can continue on then to the next.
Feeling originates from contact. Craving is the practice that leads to the origin of feeling.
Oh, Satina had a question. You want to come up?
Yes, my question. Hi, everybody. Yes, my question. First off, I do appreciate hearing it as sensation because it's a more neutral term than feeling. Neutral as in it's has less baggage, kind of, when I hear it. Doesn't carry as much. Like the word is less heavy. The word sensation is less heavy than the word feeling. Just because of everyday language for me. So I appreciate sensation. I think I'm still a little confused because the question is, what now is feeling? What is sensation? And the Buddha, he doesn't define it, or he defines it only by saying the three categories, the three classifications, like the three types, but he doesn't elaborate on Vedana itself. It's kind of like when I hear it, it's kind of like if someone asks you, what is ice cream? And someone goes like, well, there's vanilla, chocolate, and there's strawberry. But you still go like, but what's ice cream? I know what vanilla is. No, I know what you mean, but what is it? Not the types of it. That So is it just, yeah. Okay, that's my question.
Okay, so he starts out, you see here, it says, there are three types of feeling. So he isn't getting into really describing the feeling, just the types, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what it is because it's experiential, he has to speak kind of about it, and we'll get possibly an answer to that question of like actually what is it?
Okay.
And then maybe the word sensation is a better description of what's going on. Yeah, so that's a very good question. Thank you. So then Venerable Satima just read that feeling originates from contact. And that's at the 6 sense bases. And it's almost, sometimes it seems like the Buddha is speaking to somebody that already has a lot of the background information. So this is like, especially in the Samyutta Nikaya, we often just get the bare bones information. And you have to really study the entire, like the Salayatana, the previous Samyutta, is all about the 6 sense bases. So, can you still hear me? Yeah, okay, the mic was turned away. Okay, so this is Ruwanti has a hand up. Would you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir, yeah. The Vedana in one of Ajahn Brahm's talks I was listening to, he kind of said he find both the sensation and feelings for Vedana is kind of insufficient, and he prefers the word experience. So I don't know.
Okay.
What I wanted to ask, what do you think about that?
Oh, there is a verb. Now I can remember it. That does have it's a Vedana is in the verb, and it is to experience something. But I think if we think in the context of this sutta, how it arises through contact, it's really specific what we're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
So the experience at the sense door of the arising of either in response to contact, that it's there's a attraction or repulsion. It's either pleasant, and this says pleasant, painful, or neutral. This is the way Bhante Sujato has translated, and Bhante Bodhi has pleasant, unpleasant, or neither pleasant. So you have the adukkam, asukkam. So that's negating dukkha and sukha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could, I don't know if you can get this. Yeah. And dukkham is hard to bear. And an is not, but it's not dukkha and it's not sukha. So it originates from contact. So I have contact at one of the senses of the eye. I see something that's pleasant or please. One monk was saying, pleasing, it's pleasing, or not pleasing. it was, making it, what would that be called? It's a gerund, but it's making it a little bit more active somehow. So we have it arises from, actually, it would be eye consciousness or ear consciousness. There would the contact with this object with the sense, and then the awareness. It all kind of happens almost spontaneously, although they might show it in a sequence. And then this arising of Vedana occurs. And it's coming from, but this is interesting here too with the Hasa Samudaya, Vedana Samudayo. So this is like sounding a lot like dependent origination, with the origin of the contact comes the origin of the Vedana. And it's almost simultaneously. My understanding is that it's almost, I guess it is possible to have contact without Vedana, but then people argue it would be equanimity. And that's what you're actually experiencing. So, do we have any ideas about this? Anyone, any of the monastics have some? I'm going to invite the monastics into this. If there's a thought about this contact, the origination of feeling or sensation. No? Anyone else would like to say something about feeling originates from contact? But look, I'm looking at the Pasa Samudaya, Vedana Samudayo here. What does Bhante Bodhi say here? With the arising of contact, there is the arising of feeling. That sounds more closer to what it looks like to me. It's like there's contact and then it's just all coming together, gelling at once, almost sounds like. So do we think it's ever could be only the arising of contact without Vedana? Yes? Were you saying something? So it seems like Satina has a question or a comment or something, you're welcome to come up, because I don't see, I guess if somebody has their hand up and they're not on this little box here, they would come up, would they appear? Somebody? Because I don't see everybody probably. So,
If they raise their virtual hand, we can make it move to-
okay, if you put your little icon hand up, your virtual hand up, you'll come up to the top. Okay, but Satina is sitting here.
Hi, everybody. I'm back. Yes, I was just reflecting again on Vedana. Thank you, Ravandi, for chiming in. But I was doing more reflecting on it, and I feel like it's almost like a relationship you have with because through the sense door, you hear something and then you form a relationship with it, like a pleasant or unpleasant or neutral one. And I think IoT was translating it as affect or valence. And I kind of like valence because it's not a word we use a lot in English in colloquial speech. It's actually a term I only know from science, from chemistry class, that every atom has like a valence of electrons, and there's either, has protons or neutrons or electrons, it's either positively charged or negatively charged or neutrally charged. And that's kind of helpful for me to think of it as like a charge, like everything. And like the charge kind of comes from your desire. Like it kind of like zaps it, gives it like a zing.
Or
And-
version or
Yeah.
or craving.
Yeah. So it's like the stage for the object, the organ, and the consciousness. Is a stage of this charged field, or even neutrally charged field.
Hmm.
Thank you, everybody.
So that's that's almost like an electrical circuit. Maybe using this kind of scientific metaphor. So then something needs either a neutral charge or a positive or negative charge would happen when there's this chemistry that happens at contact.
And you have the noble gases that don't like to interact.
The noble gases do what?
That don't tend to have chemical reactions with each other. Right, well, it's in your periodic table of the elements, you then have the noble gases that don't that don't react, that don't tend to form chemical reactions. So it's just funny that that's the word they use.
Yeah, I had the same thought, like that they're noble.
Right, exactly. They don't have that charge that makes them form chemical bonds.
So until we're truly noble, then Vedana would not arise at contact, perhaps. Yeah, there is this discussion whether that it is possible. So now we come to the next sentence, which is quite interesting, is craving. This is how Bhante Sujato translates it. Craving is the practice that leads to the origin of feeling. And so I was looking at this word patipada, because this is how he's practices, how he's translated. But so you have line of conduct and mode of progress. So, and Bhante Bodhi says, craving is the way leading to the origination of feeling.
Tanasara Bhikkhu has craving is the path of practice leading to feeling.
Yeah, so I think they're picking up this word patipada, and they're taking it in the sense where it's often appearing in the noble disciples are practicing well and so on. But the line of conduct doesn't necessarily have to be. This sounds like a craving is the practice.
But that's what we're usually doing. Right?
So maybe it's something to do with repetition, line of conduct, mode of progress. Yeah, this is quite curious, and it would be nice for other people to chime in about this. But I think what it does is there's somebody wanting to speak. I saw a little change. Would somebody like to speak? Oh, Maitri has raised their hand.
Yes, I just wanted to chime in that it seems like although the Buddha starts answering the question by saying there's 3 types of feelings, pleasant, painful, neither pleasant nor painful. But in the second paragraph, it seems like he's trying to understand what's going on in the second paragraph. It's saying a lot about what is feeling, what gives rise to feeling, as in the contact leads to feeling, tanha drives, craving drives feeling. So it seems like it's actually in that second paragraph, what feeling is really expounded, and in detail kind of one has to go through and read it to try to understand it maybe, but there's a lot of details about what is feeling, where is it coming from, how is it arising, what drives it, what seizes it, and so forth. So
Yeah, I think,
to bring that in.
yeah, that's
And
good.
this is also tied to
Mhm.
Satima's initial question about 3 flavors of ice cream.
Yeah, I think sometimes you just have to talk about something. You can't, unless since it is an experience. And I think people can relate to pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. And that the idea that I see something and my response is, oh, that's pleasant, oh, that's unpleasant, oh, or I don't pay attention to it. So, it may be. And then, yes, like Maitri was saying, that now he's starting to explain more of the texture of it and where it's coming from. And but I'm really interested in this word patipada, and that's practice, or a way. And I think something with the practice is repeating. So it leads to the origin of feeling, but he also says that it originates from contact. So it's a continued contact, or seeking that contact, I think. The craving would be what would be perpetuating it. Because craving and the dependent origination, you have contact, you have pasa, vedana, and then tanha. But I think there's this kind of continued feedback loop where there's a constant seeking or constant avoiding of types of vedana. So that's this is my I mean, because that word patipada is just standing out to me. It's like what we should think about. What is this really saying to us? Tanha, craving is the practice, craving is the way. What did Ajahn Thanissaro say? The
Craving is the path of practice leading to feeling.
The path of practice leading to feeling. So did you have something?
Satina does.
Yeah, Satina has something more to say. But I think, oh, wait a minute, we've got to, let's give somebody here who has a hand up. Satima, Venerable Satima.
Mhm.
And then we'll give Satina a turn after that. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Good afternoon, IA, and to everyone. I was just reminded of a beautiful story about how when the Buddha was about to attain parinibbana, he was en route to Kusinara and felt fatigue and wanted to lie down beneath a tree. And then someone approached him and said how, what a peaceful life the recluses are living under the noble one. And this person went on to sort of boast about how Venerable Alara Kalama had been able to not have feeling, to not have any kind of feeling at all, even though he was experiencing contact by way of 500 ox carts that passed him by, spattered his clothing, but he didn't hear a thing. He didn't feel a thing. He didn't sense anything. And the Buddha said, which is greater, that Alara Kalama could not experience any kind of feeling, even though he had been present when 500 ox carts passed him by, or once when I was staying in a chap house, I was doing walking back and forth, and even though there were peals of thunder and lightning, and 2 brothers and 4 bulls were struck down dead with lightning, torrential rain, I didn't hear a thing. I didn't feel a thing, even though I was contacted by that kind of sensation, which is greater. And so the person said to the Buddha, oh, it's much greater to be in a situation where, peals of thunder and lightning were happening. So the Buddha was, in my understanding, explaining how one could experience contact as an arahant, because one's patipada, one's practice, is developing toward the end of craving. And by ending craving, one naturally ends feeling through the arahata pala samapatti, which arahants have the ability to enjoy even though they're present in this life. So I wonder if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, that's what I was saying. There was like this whole discussion about whether it's possible, but I think only at arahantship that one would be experiencing contact. I think what happens is that the feeling becomes more and more equanimous, and it's not neutral. As far as the neutral being not aware, you're aware of the contact, but it's equanimity rather than craving or aversion arising out of the pleasant or unpleasant. I think you might still be experiencing pleasant and unpleasant, but you're becoming more and more equanimous about it. But then at arahantship, it's this whole other dimension, maybe like the noble gases or something like that, where there isn't, the Vedana doesn't even arise. I think that's what you were saying with the Lord Buddha, and he was aware that there was thunder and lightning, and the lightning was striking living beings, but his mind would remain, and he was doing walking meditation, so he was aware of what he was doing physically, but he wasn't perturbed by anything, by any of the experience that he was aware of. So I think the next sentence is going to address what you were just bringing up. So I think we already read this. When contact ceases, feeling ceases. And this also reminds me of dependent origination. There's the pasa niroda, vedana nirodo. There's just that little snippet there. So certainly the craving wouldn't arise. If vedana doesn't arise, there's no further. How does Bhante Bodhi translate that? It's just the same. With the cessation of contact, there is the cessation of feeling. So it's not like there was the feeling there to begin with that's like cut down or something. It's just not arising. So I think this is what Venerable Satima was talking about. So somehow, no, but he did have contact. So somehow, with the experience of the Arahant, and the Noble Eightfold Path is the way leading to the cessation of feeling. So does that sound like something we want to pursue, the cessation of feeling? Are there people that would like to have the feeling always going for eternity, always having an experience of Vedana?
Got a couple hands up, IA.
Oh, okay. Ron?
Yeah, because obviously, the Buddha, as the Buddha, like completely accomplished arhatship plus, still had feeling. He still had Vedana arise. He had like back pain, for example, that was sometimes severe. So it was very interesting. It's several things, but I'm taking the cessation of feeling here to be, Arhats still have the five khandha, and Vedana is one of the five khandha, one of the five aggregates. And it's not until parinibbana. So I'm taking the ultimate cessation of feeling being parinibbana. When that's the end. Interimly, as Venerable Satima pointed out, anagamis and arhats have the capacity to enter into or experience a state of sampati nirodha, which is like cessation of perception and feeling. And so I think that's like an interim state. In terms of the Buddha's dialogue with the Brahmin, I found that sometimes the Buddha often the Buddha, I think, will respond to the questioner, not like relating to what the questioner is saying, not like with an absolute talking about not necessarily bringing in feeling in the sense of dependent origination, but perhaps responding to feeling the way that the questioner was talking about. So if the Buddha's samadhi or Bodhisattva's samadhi was so strong that it just wasn't occurring. If the mind can only have one object at a time, it was just so completely absorbed in the walking that it didn't occur. Someone that I know that lives nearby had like extraordinary jhana. And once there was a fire on the property, it was a community, and there was a fire, and the sirens came, and the fire trucks came, and people were yelling and managing everything. And afterwards, like an hour or so afterwards, his wife asked him, what did you think about all that? And she said, what? And he was actually not aware of any of it. But the feeling part that I think is like the neutral feeling that we translate neutral, but it's neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So it occurs to me, so long as consciousness is arising that has an object, even if the object is consciousness itself, or that there's some kind of feeling present, if you include a feeling that's neither pleasant nor unpleasant, it seems like those are the only three choices. So I'd be interested in your comments or your thoughts about that. Aya, but anyone.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. That's really excellent. That's kind of what we're looking at here is that, that's another way of saying contact ceases. So contact at 5 of the 6 sense gates might have ceased, but then there's still mind consciousness. So that's why I was saying until you're arhat, my idea would be it would just become more and more upekkha, more and more equanimity. And as long as you're aware, there's some, I guess that's a little confusing when the Lord Buddha is doing walking meditation and he's saying that there was contact but no Vedana. But maybe a Buddha, that's possible for a Buddha. That's it. This is what I'm saying. This is like, it gets into debate. But I think for most of us, what we need to be really sensitive to is our response to contact.
But in the Pali, was he actually saying that there was contact, or was he saying that all that stuff was going on? Because I think he was trying to create saddha, faith on the part of the listener. His saddha was misplaced. Like, wow, this person was splattered and he didn't react. It's like, okay. So my read on that, or my take on it, is that he was more not responding to Vedana in the sense of paticca, in the dependent origination, but more responding, which he does, in a very pragmatic, practical way, to where what the questioner was pointing to. If the Buddha's purpose was to shift, to kind of like support this person in not having confidence or not having faith, not being so impressed by this person that's not teaching right view and not teaching the Eightfold Path, then if that's his purpose, then he's saying, well, which is more, not responding to having your robe splattered, or not reacting or not being aware of, and it doesn't mean, it means that he wasn't aware of the lightning or the thunder, but he may have been aware of, he must have been aware of and had contact with his feet. Otherwise he wouldn't have known
Yeah, I think I remember that. That's in Udana, I think, that
Yes.
particular sutta, and I think the point was the Lord Buddha was aware of all that going on in Kalama, is that right? He was
Alara
probably
Kalama, yeah.
Alara Kalama was in some kind of other realm. We said, an immaterial realm or something, and not aware of it. So to be just aware and not being perturbed and being in another, a jhanic realm or immaterial realm and not be perturbed. What's more significant?
Exactly. Yeah. But was he in the Pali? Was he saying that with the lightning and thunder that there was no Vedana at all that arose? Is that actually what he said? Like no Vedana, or just that there was no disturbance?
My understanding, Aya, is that in that episode, because of the power of the Lord Buddha's meditation attainment, because of his realization of Nibbana and his ability to advert the mind to Nibbana, which arhats, as I understand it, arhats are able to do, even while the khandhas are remaining. Before parinibbana, they have the ability to enjoy the attainment of nibbana from time to time. And when they're directing their mind to the cessation of perception and feeling, they basically, my understanding is that they have basically, the world for them has ceased in that time, because my understanding of that particular teaching was that after the events of the lightning and peals of thunder, the Lord Buddha, was supposedly said to have asked, what happened? Why are all these people gathering around, and what's all the ruckus? And then someone said to him, someone had died, but he didn't know it. He wasn't aware, because my understanding was his mind had turned to Nibbana.
That makes total sense. Yeah.
So I think Maitri has had his hand up, but I don't see him now.
I back then at that point, I just had a quick comment on the word tanha, how it's translated as craving in both translations. There's both the push and the pull, I guess. The desire, and the word tanha encompasses also the wanting to not be with kind of idea. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, tanha, there's a bhava tanha, which would be not kind of a more sort of a version. Sometimes people think of it that's in the category of aversion, but craving, you can crave for things not to be. So that's the aversion. You're not wanting is still wanting it to be different. So there's craving for something other than what's happening or what's in front of us or what we have. Or wanting it to go away, wanting it to stop. Yeah, so tanha isn't just a desire to obtain something. And this is it's translated, the first translation for tanha is thirst. And it's for food or drink. And then in general, craving, strong desire. That's how it's translated by this Pali English dictionary that's attached to this. So when contact ceases, oh, we should probably go to the next one because I think that's, I had that question. The practice, okay, the practice that leads to the cessation of feeling is simply the Noble Eightfold Path. That is right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right immersion. Sama samadhi. I like right intention for right thought, but that's just my druthers. Yeah, some that's not in here. Some sankapo is not in there. But anyway, so if we go to the end of the path and we have actually 10 factors, we'll become an arahant. So right knowledge and right liberation, I think, is the last two. So I was commenting, why would you want to have the cessation of feeling? And I think we got into the aspect of our arahant would still have weight enough. But if they had the parinibbana, then they would no longer have further feeling. So that may be what that's pointing to. Should we continue, or would you like to talk about this a little bit? Let's see, Ron has his hand up.
Is anyone else? Okay. If no one else wants to share, then I'll say something. Yeah, for me, the sutta is kind of extraordinary. I wasn't familiar with it, but it really seems to both encompass the whole of the path and get right to the heart of the matter. You know, because as you said, feeling is that link, the link in the dependent origination between feeling and craving, and the source of samsara continuing, the source of all dukkha. You know, the source of suffering. If the first noble truth is the truth of suffering, the second noble truth of the cause of suffering is just that craving. And that craving both arises from feeling, you know, our craving for pleasant sensations and our craving to not have unpleasant. And that's really driving everything. And I really liked and appreciated, because I was puzzled, a little confused about how craving could be the path that leads to feeling. And then when you explained it, yeah, feedback loop, because when I look very practically in my own life, you know, look around in the world, there's this forever craving for contact, for some kind of contact. And with contact comes feeling, and then the feeling is pleasant or unpleasant, and that drives craving. So it's this perpetual, forever feedback loop of craving for contact. Contact leads to feeling. Feeling leads to craving. You know, and just so on forever and since beginningless time. So how to break it? And the question that the Bhikkhu asked, and it's kind of like I've seen it as a formula in other places in the discourses, like where the Buddha talked about, like if you want to be free from anything, even some mundane thing in your life, you know, like, or some pattern, like some psychological pattern or behavior. But in this case, it's the ultimate. It's being free from suffering. It's like, first of all, you need to see it. You need to see what the thing is. And in this case, so he's asking, what is this? What is feeling? And then you also need to see, okay, well, what are the, because everything arises dependent upon conditions. What are the conditions that lead to the arising of feeling? What's the origin of it? And then, what leads to the cessation of it? Because if you want to be free of it, then you need to understand this cause and effect relationship of what's necessary to free the mind from it. So I think this matrix of questions at the beginning, really is quite profound. It's like, what is it? So you can see, well, what is this? What are the causal conditions that give rise to it? And what is that leads to the cessation of it? But we don't want to be free from feeling.
That's what I was asking. Does anybody say, oh, do I really want it to cease?
Exactly. Well,
We don't want contact to cease. Such you're saying you're craving contact also.
Well, and we crave contact.
Because there's the arising of feeling from the contact.
Exactly. And the craving drives that. And so Buddha has said elsewhere, in order to be free from something, in order to be free from anything, you need to see what it is. And that's like through the whole Satipatthana Sutta, you need to see the origination factors and the dissolution factors. You need to see what gives rise to it and how to be free from it, what causes it to disappear. But then you need to see, what are you getting out of it? What's the payoff? What's the gratification? What's the pleasure that's the hook, that makes it addictive, that makes feeling addictive, that makes contact addictive. So you need to see that, like, what is the hook in feeling?
Yeah, so we're getting right there. If we could stop right there, Ron, because we're getting right to that point in the sutta. So we have just like a little bit of time. So I'd like to read through to the end and get back to what you were saying, because you're right on with the sequence of this sutta. So if you don't mind, I'll just read this and then we can.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the pleasure and happiness that arise from feeling, this is the gratification. It's asada. That feeling is impermanent, suffering, and perishable. This is its drawback. And Bhante Bodhi translates it as danger. I like the word danger. It sounds more powerful. Removing and giving up desire and greed for feeling, this is its escape. So this is this formula, the gratification, the danger, and the escape, or the gratification, the drawback, and the escape. And you can take the 5 khandhas and the 6 sense gates, and now he's taking feeling and using this framework to examine it. Like Ron is talking about, we examine it according to where it's coming from and what effect it's having on us. And how do we release ourselves from this? This is, so I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ron, but I just.
No, it wasn't an interruption. No, it was just, I was going off the original questions, but exactly, because the questions lead to the answer.
Yeah.
And the answer is like the formula for freeing ourselves from everything. Like, you need to see what it is, see what causal conditions are, see what's giving rise to it, so you can apply the fourfold right effort, stop it from arising. You need to see what dissolution factors are, so you know how to free the mind from it. But in order to be willing to, like, which is what your brilliant question was, are you really willing to let go of feeling? Well, to be able to, because it's not like, I want to attain nibbana, I'll let go. It's like, we don't let go. The mind has to let go. And for the mind to let go, it needs to see, like, what are you getting out of it? Like, what's the pleasure? What's the gratification? And then it needs to really get, which is why, we do the practice and, get into the dukkha jnanas, like the stages of insight where the heart penetratingly sees the suffering, and sees the pain, sees, and the Buddha is saying, well, what is that? What is seen in the stages of insight? What is seen in the progress of insight? That it's impermanent, and that which is impermanent is dukkha, and it sees and feels, the dukkha. And then, but then, what do? We leave the retreat, we go home, get some chocolate. It's like, you need to see the escape, that there's some other escape other than the usual escape, which is seeking, and the Buddha said, because beings don't know any other escape from suffering, they seek escape from suffering through sense pleasures, which is what I do, which is what we do.
So there's a suttas in both the Kanda Samyutta, of the 5 aggregates, and then the Salayatana, and they're talking about gratification. If there wasn't gratifications, beings wouldn't be enamored by the senses, or enamored by the khandas, or enamored by contact, or enamored by feeling. I'm adding these in. I don't think that's, but he's saying, there is gratification. He doesn't talk just about dukkha. He's talking about, and this is kind of like what keeps us wanting to seek that contact and to seek the way to know, is the gratification. So just really saying, yes, there is, and really acknowledging that, really seeing that there is that. It's not all dukkha. We do have some certain amount of gratification, but this promise of the gratification is what keeps us in samsara. So then the second stage is, like you're saying, you have to really look at these really closely, and that the feeling is impermanent, suffering, and perishable. This is its danger or drawback. So seeing both sides of it is really important. And the removing and giving up of desire and greed for feeling is the escape. So this is such a wonderful sutta. It's got the 4 Noble Truths are embedded in this, and dependent origination. It's all, and this also this framework of the gratification, the danger of and escape. It's all encompassed in this small sutta, just so rich. And that's why I was saying we could take any piece of it and just use it as a something to contemplate. I think there's probably a word for it, but I'm not coming up with it. But a subject for insight, to contemplate.
And you practice.
I think Satina had something to say a while ago, and I don't know if it's still something.
Yeah, I'll just say 2 comments. One, I think it's interesting. We're talking about the gratification, the gratification, the pleasure and joy that arises from feeling. It reminds me that the study of Buddhism is the abandoning of this lesser pleasure and joy for this greater pleasure and joy. The supreme, the highest happiness. And so it's seeing the small, conditional, fraught pleasure with like the less fraught pleasure of actually seeing everything, as we've been saying. And then the model of gratification, danger, and escape. I've heard it as a gratification, danger, and release. And I liked release because it's just then it's almost like a passive thing. Like once you really see it, the mind just doesn't grab it anymore. It's less about like, because escape kind of has a tinge of aversion of wanting to not be with, but when you release something, it just, you don't, there's less effort. I hear that. Oh yeah, and then my original comment was related back to what you were saying about patipada, which is a while ago, but I understood that to be basically, I understand the sutta to be saying that craving is a condition for Vedana. That's how I understood that term.
Yeah, but if you look at origination was what I was saying is that the from contact arises Vedana, from Vedana arises the tanha, but then there's this continuous feedback loop. It's not the dependent in origination. It starts with ignorance because that's continued rebirth, but that within lifespan, there's this continued cycling of some of the interior factors of dependent origination. So those keep going around and around with the down to the upadana. But I have the translation here for Nisarana, which has been translated as escape and you said release, and it says going out, departure, escape, separation from, riddance means remedy to get rid of or counteract something. So release. Yeah, release is, well, if you open up the door and you can, or things are released, the cage door, you're releasing something. That can be seen as an escape too. You open the door and so, but you're also releasing. Yeah, so it could be seen as, yeah. An escape or release or going out, departure. So I appreciate everybody's attendance and all your comments. We're about the end of time here. So does anyone have a last minute comment? Or we can just end then if there isn't anything else that anyone wants to say. So we'll end with the homage to the Triple Gem.
Who's that?
Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivati Wakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sangho Sangham Namah. Thank you all for your participation and patient listening.
Bye.